Oh, Mr. President, come on, you can't fall asleep there. This isn't an intelligence briefing. Come on, man. Security concern and a potential bribe. It seems clearly unconstitutional to give the president a gift like this.
Ever wonder how to handle diplomacy with a man whose favorite book might actually be the McDonald's menu? Saudi Arabia figured it out fast. When Donald Trump touched down in Riyadh for his first overseas trip as president in May 2017, they didn't just roll out the red carpet, they laid out the purple one, added horse escorts, brass bands, sword dancers, and a golden reception fit for a pharaoh. And just to seal the deal, they brought in a McDonald's food truck, because apparently nothing says strategic alliance like a side of fries and a double quarter pounder.
Arabia had a McDonald's mobile truck come on site so that President Trump could have his favorite McDonald's.
This was not your standard diplomatic trip. It was a spectacle. Trump, more than any president in modern history, governed by theater, and the Saudis gave him Broadway. From the second he arrived, they fed not just his appetite, but his ego. State dinners, ceremonial gifts, and a glittering medal that seemed to weigh more than any policy document he'd ever read.
Overnight, President Trump touching down in Saudi Arabia, escorted by military jets, a lavish welcome for his first visit to the Middle East since his re-election.
In the words of The Daily Show, Trump was in heaven if heaven served Big Macs and handed out gold like candy.
You gotta hand it to the Saudis, though. They know the fastest way to Trump's heart is through his stomach, out the colon, with a little bit staying behind in his arteries.
The Saudi seduction. Trump's itinerary in Saudi Arabia was a carefully choreographed exercise in ego inflation. The purple carpet, rarely used, symbolized royalty. The brass bands blared triumphantly. Sword dancers moved in rhythm like a medieval Vegas act. All eyes were on Trump, which is exactly how he liked it.
Leader. But Donald Trump is no average world leader, and Saudi Arabia knows how to cater to a man with such refined tastes.
While past presidents typically used such visits to raise uncomfortable topics like human rights abuses, the war in Yemen, or the murder of journalists, Trump chose a different route. He said nothing. He beamed with joy as golden swords glistened before him, praised the hospitality, and gave interviews praising the Saudis as tremendous allies.
I like them a lot. I like them too much. That's why we give so much, you know? Too much. I like you too much.
Behind the scenes, the real deals were being cut, arms sales totaling more than $110 billion. And while Trump claimed he had single-handedly saved the U.S. economy with these agreements, many of the deals had been in the pipeline since the Obama administration. Others were speculative at best, but that didn't stop Trump from exaggerating. Shortly after the trip, he told reporters the deals could total $350 billion, then $450 billion, then $500 billion. Eventually, he landed on a staggering $5.1 trillion, a figure that had economists and fact-checkers doing triple takes. If Trump negotiated that deal, one analyst joked, he should be running the IMF. A nap to remember. In perhaps the most surreal moment of the trip, Trump appeared to doze off during a key meeting with Saudi officials. Cameras captured him slowly closing his eyes while others spoke. The internet exploded with memes. The Daily Show quipped, "You can't fall asleep there, Mr. President. This isn't an intelligence briefing."
Mr. President, come on, you can't fall asleep there. This isn't an intelligence briefing. Come on, man.
It was a telling moment. While the Saudis played 3D chess, Trump was playing hungry, hungry hippos and losing to jet lag. The family business. Ethical questions loomed large. Reports emerged that Trump's sons, who accompanied him on the trip, had engaged in discussions about real estate ventures in the Gulf. While the president was technically separated from day-to-day business operations, critics argued the trip blurred the lines between diplomacy and private profit.
His sons, who now run the Trump Organization, have lucrative real estate deals in the works in all three countries the president is visiting.
The U.S. Embassy reportedly had to field inquiries about the Trump Organization's interests, while the president praised the host country on live television. Transparency International flagged the visit as a prime example of potential conflicts of interest. But for Trump, all that mattered was the optics. The image of him wielding a golden sword alongside Saudi royalty was beamed back to his base with the speed of Twitter. Stop 2. Israel and the geography gaffe. Trump's next stop was Israel, where he made headlines before even stepping off the plane. In a now infamous remark, Trump declared, "Just got back from the Middle East," despite literally being in the Middle East. While in Jerusalem, he visited the Western Wall, becoming the first sitting U.S. president to do so. He placed a note in the wall, posed solemnly, and appeared deeply moved. The visual was powerful, but substance? Not so much. Behind closed doors, Trump reportedly shared classified information with Israeli officials, info that had originally come from Israeli intelligence. It sparked diplomatic tremors. American intelligence officials were livid. Meanwhile, Trump's statements on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict were as vague as ever. He said peace was not as difficult as people have thought, and promised to achieve what no president had before. But there were no new plans, no framework, no commitments. Late-night hosts seized on the moment. Seth Meyers joked, "Trump says peace in the Middle East is easy. He once tried to fix healthcare by yelling at Paul Ryan." The papal side-eye. Next came the Vatican, where the tone shifted dramatically. Pope Francis, a vocal critic of Trump's immigration and climate policies, welcomed the president with what can only be described as a strained smile. Photographers caught the Pope's expression, stone-faced, unimpressed, as Trump grinned beside him like a kid on a school field trip. The image went viral. Inside, the two discussed global issues, including climate change and the plight of refugees, topics where their positions could not have been more different. The Pope gave Trump a copy of his encyclical on the environment, Laudato Si. Trump, in return, handed over a box set of Martin Luther King Jr. writings. Observers noted the irony. The Pope offered a blueprint for saving the planet. Trump offered a box of speeches he likely hadn't read. Qatar and the $400 million surprise. But the most jaw-dropping moment came with Qatar. Amid tense relations between Qatar and its Gulf neighbors, and just days before Trump would back Saudi Arabia in a blockade against the country, Qatar pulled a bold move. They gifted Trump a private Boeing 747, customized to the tune of $400 million.
We turn to the uproar over the $400 million gift from the government of Qatar tonight, a luxury 747 jumbo jet.
Plush leather seats, gold-trimmed interiors, and a state-of-the-art communication system, it was essentially a flying Trump Tower. Officially, the jet was presented as a gift to the United States, but critics questioned the optics. Why would a small Gulf state under diplomatic siege present such an over-the-top gift to a U.S. president? The answer, many believe, lies in access. With Trump, influence wasn't built through multilateral treaties or white papers. It was won through pageantry, excess, and personal flattery.
Security concern and a potential bribe. It seems clearly unconstitutional to give the president a gift like this.
Qatar had taken notes from the Saudis' playbook and added wings. Comedians had a field day. Jimmy Kimmel said he finally got his dream ride, Air Force One, but make it Trumpier. The trillion-dollar exaggeration. Back in the U.S., Trump began promoting the trip as the greatest diplomatic mission in American history. He claimed to have brought back $5.1 trillion in deals. Economists laughed. That number included vague promises, non-binding memoranda, and speculative agreements that may never materialize. In fact, many of the arms deals he boasted about had been initiated under Obama. Others were merely expressions of interest. This was not a windfall, said a State Department official. It was wishful math. But Trump supporters weren't reading policy reports. They saw the pictures. Trump with swords, Trump with the Pope, Trump walking grand corridors flanked by foreign royalty. They heard his booming claims about jobs and deals and saw headlines that said, "Historic." That was enough. The nightly takeaway. Nightly comedy shows dissected the trip with surgical precision. From Colbert's mocking of the sword dance to Trevor Noah's segment titled Trump's Excellent Middle East Adventure, the consensus was clear. This wasn't diplomacy. It was ego management with global consequences. The optics were stunning, the results not so much. Instead of tackling global crises, Trump basked in praise, collected ornate gifts, and walked away with inflated numbers and glowing headlines from conservative outlets. Meanwhile, American foreign policy became a punchline, a lesson in manipulation. The world had cracked the Trump code: compliment him endlessly, give him flashy toys, avoid policy debates, offer fast food, forget statecraft. This was state craftiness. Leaders from Riyadh to Doha understood that with Trump, form mattered more than substance. Symbolism trumped policy, and cheeseburgers beat briefing books. So what did America gain? Temporary arms sales, awkward papal photo ops, a president napping during diplomacy? What did others gain? Billions in weapons. Continued U.S. silence on human rights, a weakened diplomatic posture. This wasn't foreign policy, it was performance art. And Trump, the reality TV star turned president, played his part flawlessly. Epilogue: The legacy of the Burger Tour. Years later, historians may look back at this trip as a turning point, not because of what it achieved, but because of what it revealed. It showed that a U.S. president could be manipulated by pageantry, that he could value spectacle over strategy, that foreign leaders didn't need leverage. They needed a happy meal and a flurry of compliments. Trump called it the most successful foreign trip in history. The rest of the world just shook its head and kept the receipts.